Hello and welcome to the CSN3M Mindset Monday podcast. I'm Andrew Wade with Case Specific Nutrition. On this channel, we focus on the three M's: mindsets, myth busting, and mentoring, all as they pertain to health and nutrition. This podcast is brought to you by the OptiLife Academy. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing the complex, complicated, and controversial topic of measuring our health. And I think it's a really important topic now, especially with all of the different movements and conversations focused around health and wellness, and particularly with our focus as a culture and as our tendency to use the scale. And I know personally in my day-to-day and even amongst the dietitians within my practice, on a regular basis, we find ourselves working hard to help people detach from the scale. And I wanted to take a little bit of time today to discuss why. And to get started, I want to present sort of a thought experiment. With that, I would say that it's the common statement that my doctor told me to lose 10 pounds. That's a common referral. It's a common reason we end up, people find us on our website, is that, they went to the doctor told them they needed to lose weight. And unfortunately, that is only one route in which we receive that information, but it is in that route a very massive oversimplification. And that's not to blame or speak negatively of doctors, but it is just to observe and seek to better understand what they're actually trying to say. At the end of the day, a physician's job is extremely complex. There's a lot of things they need to be dealing with and covering, and their role and goal is to help serve as a patron or a guide in your health. And what we can see is sometimes that intention is not followed up in a way that is ideal. What we hope is that eventually doctors get to a point where, they see, some sort of health-related concern and they refer to a dietitian and say, you need to work on your habits, as opposed to you need to work on the scale. And I want to dig into the why behind that. And it starts with the observation that the statement, you need to lose 10 pounds, is a massive oversimplification. Typically, if a doctor says that, it means that they are assessing, your blood pressure or your blood sugar, and they're noticing that there's changes in your cholesterol. Unfortunately, sometimes it's as simple as they weigh you and then they weigh you again, and they see that from 6 months prior there's been a significant weight change. In any of these instances, a doctor's statement of you need to lose weight would be better termed as, hey, we need to focus on habits. And it's because those observations of a significant weight spike, which at times may actually be intentional and may be positive, and that's one that's obviously a short-sighted piece. But the more important metrics, which would be our blood pressure, our blood sugar, or our cholesterol's changing, what those numbers are indicating is that there's been a change in habits that are having somewhat of a negative effect on our health. And so in that observation, unfortunately, at least initially, before fad diets and overly restrictive diets existed, we could see that if we had people paying attention to their habits, the scale would go down. But the most important thing to say there is that, hey, when people paid attention to their habits, and from that has spiked this entire industry of fad diets and hyper rigid focuses and things that are meant to capture people's attention and drive them to feel more consistent. But at the end of the day, what we can see is that really what we're trying to accomplish, and what the vague statement of prescribing weight loss is trying to accomplish, though many times it is failing to achieve this, is it's trying to encourage somebody to take a look at their day-to-day habits. And that's what we do here as dietitians. Our role is not to force the scale down by any means necessary. Our role is to help people take a look at their habits. And the reason for that is because our habits of all kinds, not just eating and exercising, but our sleep habits, our stress management habits, our positive outlets, those are really what dictate our health. They're what dictate our well-being. They're what allow our body to thrive. They're what allow us to sleep well. And so we want to be making sure that when a doctor makes a recommendation, or when you decide that you want to focus on your health, that the first thing we don't jump into is weight-based, hyper-focused, hyper-rigid goals. And the reason for that is because the scale really doesn't do a great job of capturing health. At base, we are 60 to 65% water. And so you can do the math on yourself. But if you're a 300-pound person, roughly 200 pounds of you is likely water. And so with that observation, we can hopefully see that the scale is going to bounce up and down, and it's going to change somewhat dramatically day to day, and even week to week, based on things that have nothing to do with anything other than if you had a salty meal, or if you drank more water than normal, or if you were dehydrated, or if you exercised and your muscles were tired, or if you had high stress levels. All of those things fluctuate our water balance day to day and really don't give us any sort of, usable metric on the scale to tell us whether progress is being made, which is why people that weigh themselves day to day and get frustrated often end up giving up on the habits that are actually the health in the first place. What's worth observing is a lot of insurances cover nutrition services with a dietitian as a part of someone's benefit plan. And the reason that there's coverage is actually because the research shows that if a dietitian works with someone and helps improve their eating, that's not saying putting them on a calorically restricted diet, but instead focuses on eating good foods and spreading food out and being more intentional about the food, feeling hunger and feeling fullness and all of those great things, there's actually a huge improvement in health independent of what the scale tells us. And so what we want to be thinking about is this really interesting observation that in many ways, I think the scale is avoidance behavior. I think that the scale is a short-term checkpoint. It's meant to be this observation that if your doctor recommended you working on your health and working on your habits, we want to find a metric along the way that tells us we're doing well, right? That tells us that we're succeeding. But to be honest, we should be able to feel improvements in our health. And so here's a thought experiment. If a doctor pulled labs and saw your cholesterol levels, or saw your blood pressure was higher, or your LDL was elevated, and they said, hey, we need to, either frame it as they typically do, which is you benefit from losing weight, but the better way to state it would be, hey, we need to be taking a look at our habits and maybe take a look at the diet and exercise and those things, stress and sleep. That's not them saying that you need to go keto or you need to jump on a hyper rigid bandwagon. Instead, that's saying, hey, what changes can we make that 6 months from now will have a profound impact on your health? And 6 months sounds like a long time, but I would say that another way, that if you're looking at changing how you eat, or changing how you view food, or you're looking at changing how you move your body, and 6 months sounds like a long time to commit, then we're likely not actually devoted to making changes. It sounds instead like we're trying to hold our breath, force some metric to change short term, and not actually trying to improve our health in the long term, right? The hope is that 6 months from now, when you follow up with those labs, the LDL cholesterol is lower, the blood pressure is lower, the A1C is lower, we have these changes, and it's a result of doing things in a way that you're enjoying, that allow you to feel more intentional, that allow you to feel better. And that's where true change comes from. And so I think oftentimes fad diets are offered because they are felt to be a quick fix. But the problem is, what are they fixing? They're not actually fixing the things that we're trying to change, which is long-term health outcomes and health measures. And so with these short-term fads, they need to offer a short-term checkpoint or check-in. And the scale is the easiest one, because hyper-restriction will oftentimes change the scale dramatically. But somewhere along the way, we lost sight of the fact that a huge drop in the scale suddenly does not actually correlate or translate to improved health and outcomes. Just like your weight in general does not always correlate to health and outcomes. And so from this perspective, we can see that the role of a dietitian, or the role of really any good health coach, is to help people better understand their actual goal. And I'm not impressed by weight loss programs and diet fads that boast how fast we lose weight, because that is oftentimes completely missing the goal itself. So what do we propose instead? This is where, when we're trying to acknowledge that, we do like feeling like we are making progress, we like outcomes, we like rewards as people, that maybe we need to be thinking about the observation that the long-term promise of, hey, if you start to, eat with more intention and move your body in a way that you enjoy, in 6 months, these numbers on a piece of paper at the doctor are going to be better. That obviously feels a little bit short-sighted and once again misses the point. And so instead, we want to be thinking about, after we acknowledge the long-term goal of health, which is to obviously improve our body's ability to do things that we love, improve our body to thrive, allow ourselves to live our life to the fullest, we want to recognize that we want to scale back down and look at some of the short-term metrics that we might be able to use and use to our advantage to keep sort of that intention or purpose in mind, beyond just those measures of the A1C or the LDL or the blood pressure at our doctor's visits. And so some of the other measures that I would encourage people to start utilizing would be things like observing their energy levels. And it might be worth, having an energy journal, because the first thing that happens, not when you're starving yourself, not when you're hyper restricting, but when you're fueling yourself with good quality food that allows you to actually improve your health, we see a big boost in energy levels. We see stability in our blood sugar, which translates to good, stable energy. That also translates to a more stable mood. So we might notice that we're more calm, or we're, less likely to feel depressed or anxious. We usually see better sleep. So we have a better sleep and wake cycle, right? Going to bed, sleeping more deeply, not waking up as often, and then also waking up and actually feeling more refreshed. A big one that the dietitians here at Case Specific really talk about a lot is alignment of the hunger and fullness cues. You get to a point where you actually can acknowledge when you feel hungry and look forward to that, and instead of it being this desperate, this desperate effort to feed yourself, it can instead be a good positive cue that then allows you to eat a meal that then allows you to feel satisfied. That hunger fullness cue, having that body in a rhythm that it's able to actually feel hungry and feel satisfied, is a sign that your body is in good alignment. And then a big one that I see, and I feel like it's probably only second to the report of increased energy, is improved digestion. And there's lots of others, but these are some right off the cuff that really can be valuable. And improved digestion is, not feeling as bloated, not feeling, having more regular bowel movements, for example, feeling like you have reductions in reflux or gas and, like I said, bloating, your body changing because it's receiving food in a way that's positive. It's receiving foods that are actually, balanced and digestible. So those become some of our best short-term indicators. And like I said, I think when someone's looking for that metric of like, hey, is what I'm doing working? Instead of looking at the scale, it really would benefit us to say, well, how are your energy levels? How is your mood? How is your recovery from exercise? How is your sleep? How is your hunger and fullness cues? How is your digestion? And if those metrics, if we can check the boxes at the end of each day or at the end of each week and notice that our body is feeling improvements in those realms, then we actually know that we are making a difference. Those are short-term metrics that actually give us long-term successes. And those are the things that are going to translate to the reduction in the LDL, to the reduction in the diabetes risk, to the reduction in the cholesterol levels, to the reduction, in the blood pressure. All of those metrics we use at the doctor's office that we are trying to translate to the body's overall health status really do connect better to these subjective measures that we feel day in and day out. And so it becomes interesting to think about a world that doesn't have the scale, or at the very least, a world where the scale isn't first. And what my dream is that doctors will start, when they see data, which is all this information we're talking about, right, or measures of data that suggests that someone's lifestyle might be out of balance, that instead of prescribing weight loss, they prescribe a habits check, and they refer them to a dietitian or a wellness professional that will work with them intensely and intimately to find the struggles and the obstacles in those habits, as well as some points moving forward that can show us short-term subjective improvements that allow our body to feel better, our mind to feel better, and then more importantly, over time become sustainable. So instead of holding our breath and trying to, force a diet for a month to drop the scale so that you can go to the doctor and show them that you lost 10 pounds, instead we can walk into that next meeting with the doctor feeling better, reporting improvements in overall health, and then allow those labs to show you and surprise you with how much they change. I want to thank you for listening. I hope this has been an interesting perspective and a chance to think again about how you're spending your energy and efforts in your health, and how are you defining your health. Once again, if you are struggling to understand your health and your health journey, don't hesitate to reach out to us here at Case Specific Nutrition. We are here to help people. That is why our hashtag and our life motto is to spread the health. Please subscribe to our channel if you have not already, and share on your favorite social media. Don't forget to tag a friend or loved one who is on their health journey and trying to better understand themselves. For more case-specific nutrition content, you can follow us on social media at Case Specific Nutrition, and you can check us out at casespecificnutrition.com. We will be back next week with another CSN3M Mindset Monday.